Detention is a show I've been wanting to talk about for a long time now. I first came across it in late 2020 and have really come to love it. It's such a good show with a weird story behind it. I just had to talk about it. First airing in late 1999, it's the story of 7 good-hearted kids who just can't seem to stay out of detention, and was an instant hit on the WB thanks to a huge marketing push from Warner Brothers. It seemed to be going well, and it looked like the channel had a multi-season hit on its hands. And then it was over. The show ran for one season of 13 episodes, and then vanished from the public eye. So what happened? Well, before we dig into this tale of network meddling and creative tension, let's first take a look at what made Detention a potential hit in the first place. As we learned before, the show focused on 7 good kids who, for one reason or another, always seemed to find themselves in detention by the end of the day. These kids are Sharina Wickett, voiced by Tara Strong, a pessimistic girl with a spunky attitude and a dark fashion sense; Emmett Roswell, voiced by Billy West, of Futurama fame, a conspiracy theorist who explains that intelligent life exists in outer space and is determined to make contact with aliens; Jim Kim, voiced by the series writer Roger S. Gabacher, forgive the pronunciation, a shy kid with a love of comic book superheroes, particularly from DC Comics; Ramon Gug Galameo, voiced by Carlos Alazaquiri, a short kid with a short temper, again, sorry for the pronunciation; Duncan Bubble, a quiet boy who is always playing with a yo-yo and never speaks. He instead uses his yo-yo to spell out messages; Lamangela and Arangela LaBelle, a pair of identical twins. They've been known to get themselves into trouble by hacking into the school computers and removing library fines. They're actually voiced by real-life twins, Tia Mowry and Tamara Mowry, who play the twins on the live-action TV show Sister Sister. Shelley Kelly, voiced by Pamela Fairden, an optimistic and peppy girl, and is the only kid in detention who is not there due to rule breaking, but because she is Miss Kiskilia's assistant. And finally, the teacher and semi-antagonist of the series, Eugenia P. Kiskilia, voiced by Kathleen Freeman, the gym teacher and detention monitor of Benedict Arnold Middle School. Having been a military sergeant in the Marine Corps, Miss Kiskilia bosses the children around like such. Interestingly enough, I thought the premise would mean that each episode would end with them getting thrown in detention despite their best efforts. A rather depressing status quo, to be sure. This was not the case, however, as instead, detention is usually used as an inciting incident, which I find rather refreshing. I hate shows that inspire nothing but hopelessness and constantly beat the characters down if they ever try to dare and do anything to make their lives better. So it's nice to see that that's not what's been done here. In fact, the show is quite optimistic about people's intentions and the human spirit in general. Even Miss Kiskilia, despite usually being tyrannical towards the children, has been shown to be a nice person, and I really like how she seems to have a whole nother life outside of school, including being a pro wrestler and a lover of US history. In fact, if I had to pick a favorite episode, it would probably be Capital Punishment for that very reason. In this episode, we get to see Miss Kiskilia and Sharina's somewhat antagonistic relationship in a new light, when the detention gang is taken on a field trip to the US Capitol. And while the rest of the class is off on various side adventures, Sharina and Miss Kiskilia are forced to hang out together and tour the Capitol, and Sharina sees a new side of her oftentimes grumpy teacher. She sees how passionate and earnest Miss Kiskilia can be, and they actually have a really nice time. It's sweet, and I love the message it sends about how there's always more to someone than just your first impression of them. Another episode I wanted to talk about during this review is Boys in the Parenthood, which simultaneously has some of the best and worst writing in the entire show. The plot centers around the class being given water balloons as stand-ins for babies and being charged with taking care of them over the weekend. What follows is some of the most tired and worn-out gender stereotypes in all of media. You know the ones. Boys are bad at parenting, girls are mini moms, basically mini adults. Boys are pigs, girls are caring and kind. Boys are inconsiderate, selfish morons, girls are sensitive and sweet. And of course, who could forget that all boys are deadbeat dads in training? It's honestly pretty awful. But I did say this has some of the best written stuff in the show as well. That all comes in with the main plot of the episode, which centers around Emmett's absent father, who actually is a deadbeat dad. And there's a beautiful story in there about how Emmett is determined by the end to be a better father than his dad before him, but it's kind of ruined by the all men are dumb, at best trope. Still, it's worth mentioning, since this is a heartfelt story about a boy who just wants to connect with his father, and his mom who's doing the best she can as a single parent. It really resonated with me. It's just a shame that they couldn't seem to tell this story without all of the boys versus girls baggage. But what about all that stuff about Detention being cancelled before its time? Well, the sad truth is that while Detention got great reviews and ratings, and even rivaled Pokemon, it still failed. But why? 2 words: executive meddling. The show's creator, Bob Doucette, had constant battles with network higher-ups over whether or not to fire large portions of his creative team. Mr. Doucette was obviously against putting his hard-working, talented team out of work, and used up most of his bargaining power with the network trying to stop them from firing people. In retribution, the higher-ups pulled the advertising power of the network away from Detention and moved it to a death time slot, killing the show. It's a pretty sad story, but one that's not that uncommon in entertainment. All in all, Detention is a great show, an underrated gem. I don't think it's going to be for everybody, but I think it has favorite series potential for a good chunk of the people who watch it, and that's why I started Obscure Cartoons, because so many of these shows are worth watching, and for whatever reason they haven't gotten their chance in the spotlight. So if you're watching this video, trying out a new cartoon, thanks, and maybe give this show a chance. Or, more likely, you're watching this because something reminded you of this show you watched when you were a kid, in which case, please leave a comment below telling us more about your experience with this underrated gem. If you want more reviews on cartoons, obscure or otherwise, then check out the rest of my channel, or follow me on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, or my website, CallumQuinnCreates.com, and maybe give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you liked it. I'm also on Patreon, so be sure to support me there if you want access to early videos and exclusive content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.